create an angled plane at the origin?
Yeah. So, actually, before I even start that, I started recording now. So before I start that, I'm going to get some other information that I know. So this screw here, I'm going to measure it, and it's 1/9. So it looks like it's number 10. And I have a thread gauge here. So one focus. So it's got a bunch of teeth on it. And there's a number. So there's a number on the
each one of those.
On each one of those, there you can see it.
Tool ends.
That's how many teeth per inch it is. So this is a 10. So 10 is either a 24 or a 32. Excuse me. And this does not have those sizes.
Oops.
Here's a 32. So the thread gauge does have a 32, and it looks like that is it.
It mates nicely with the screw.
Yeah. So the teeth match. So it's a number 1032. So where did my pencil go? So that is number 10, 32. So I wrote that on my drawing here. And I'm gonna draw a little picture of the the snorkel going back, and time to measure that. There it is. My work area is a little cluttered, so I'm just gonna kind of hold this up and just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact, but it looks like it is about at 45 degrees back. It was almost exactly right there.
I see.
And so I just put it kind of on that forward edge and made it so that the beam, this part was parallel to the glass, and then this part was parallel to the snorkel. So even though it wasn't resting exactly on it, it was probably within a degree or two. And coming out, the rough number coming out close to 45, that probably just means that 45 is the number. When you're measuring things, there's always an amount of kind of rounding you have to do to say, okay, what did they really want it to be? Would they really have done it at 43 degrees, or did they actually just do it at 45?
Have you ever been confounded by something that really was just an odd angle, like 42 degrees?
Yeah. And so sometimes you can kind of, I don't know, it's experience to know when that weird number is supposed to be that weird number.
When it falls on something nice or when it falls on something strange.
Yeah. Especially like on measuring thicknesses and things. Sometimes you get to a real weird number, but then you do the conversion to metric, and it's perfectly, it's like right on like 10 millimeters or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 99.999 millimeters because it does a weird conversion
and so
somewhere.
it's like, okay, this is a metric part. Like when you start measuring something and nothing comes out to an even inch number, either a tenth or a fraction. So in inch drawings, well, people either do things to tenths, so it'll be 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, like that, or they'll do eighths or the fractional thing, so it'll be like 0.6, 1.2, 2.4, stuff like that. And so you can kind of tell, and if it's not one of those two schemes, and then check the metric numbers to see if it's actually a metric part. So now I'm going to just create a construction plane. So I'll add an angle. I'm going to pick that line 45. And say okay. So I'm going to create a sketch on there. And just draw a line across. Oops. Because I have those tangent arcs. I want to hold it. Come up. And I didn't hold it again. There we go. I don't know if I have a zero length line segment there. There we go. Take that out. All right. So we've got this kind of a shape here. And now it is time to do some constraining on this thing. So first thing, I'm going to tell midpoint to this line to there. That to be tangent there. That to be tangent there. Tangent there. Tell these two center points to line up horizontally with each other. And now it's behaving nicely. So this is what I was talking about doing your sketch rough and then just going in and checking to make sure it works.
Piece by piece, constraining the behavior.
I remember that I had a little extra zero length segment there, so I erased that, and now you can see it's not tangent anymore. So I'm going to add that tangent back in. But I can see that as I'm grabbing one point and moving it around, it's still behaving the way I want it to, and that's what we want. And so grabbing an arc segment or a point of some kind and move it around, make sure that it behaves correctly and stays the same shape that you want before you start adding any dimensions to it. Because now I can go in and add my dimensions pretty easily. So I can dimension from here to the tangent point there, and that's supposed to be 0.905. So I made it really big, kind of blew out my proportions, so I'm just going to drag this out so I get more towards those proportions that I want. And then from here to, I dimensioned it kind of to the tangent point. So from there to the tangent point was 0.875. Again, I'm going to pull that back out. And then dimension from the tangent of there to the tangent of there. And that was 1.9. And so that really gives me, that is kind of like about how much of a curve there is there. I'm just going to finish. And realize that I did that upside down. Because that should be the upper side of it, not the lower side of it. So I'm going to go back into here.
Could you just mirror it once you finish an actual piece of the part?
Yes, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to just erase that.
Understood.
Erase that. Erase that. So I'm just going to take that arc out. Redraw it.
You'd much rather do it right than just move it to the next correct state.
Yeah, because then you're constantly trying to fix things. So we get rid of that also. So we'll just do this again.
But this time the right way.
Yep. That's what happens if you don't stretch things out beforehand. Sometimes they do that. There we go. I really don't need like 3 inches. So I'm just going to make like 3.5 inches long. Because it doesn't really matter where that is. Because if it's on here, then I've only got this much space. If it's here, I've got that much space. So maybe I'm going to put a, yeah. I'll just leave it like that. Because I think I'm going to do something for up here maybe. Actually, it really doesn't matter. Because maybe I'll do a circle and a bigger clip just to see how it goes. What do you think? What do you think is better? Trying to do just a base for one of these clips and the clip goes in, or having it so I can just permanently mount that.
The mount seems like it's got a better hold than the clip.
The first one, doing this clip, this mount, or
yes.
So yeah, this one's making a base so this can slide into that'll be attached to here.
Yes.
Okay.
Settle on
Alexander,
top.
what do you think? It's gonna be in the pool, the ocean, lake, the river. Probably more pool and river, but our pool is saltwater. But this weekend we're gonna go to the Kings River to go camping, so it'll be in the river and stuff. So that was a good question. So while you guys are, one of the things we're going to talk about when we talk about your projects is the requirements for it, and one of those is where is it going to be used, case, and stuff like that. So that. So does that help you give a recommendation? Here we're trying to limit it down to 2, just the mount down low, or the clip mount. It's like Alexander and Craig both are voting for the clip mount. So maybe we'll just do that. And I already have the dimensions for that. So, okay. Yeah. And easier to kind of take on and off. So I agree. It'll be lower profile when it's not being used. So we'll go with the clip mount. And so last night I had already gone through and measured that out. So my son is still sleeping. We're just gonna do this without him. So you can see the dimensions here for the clip mount. I didn't kind of include everything, so I probably should get that dimension between those two. But that's kind of the dimensions that are needed. The outside dimension really doesn't matter for the mount. And then the bottom will replace once we kind of make it match up to this. So I do need to get that other one though. So make sure that this is the right clip mount for this part. And point 842. So I just added that right there. Come on, focus. This camera doesn't like to focus sometimes. There you go, 842. And you can see my dimensions they don't follow all the rules. I just stuck that one inside the envelope. But even on the sketch, I try and follow some of the rules.
Aren't the rules more for giving technical descriptions rather than for prototyping? Yeah,
the rules are more on the final drawings, and so that we don't have to follow those rules on our sketches. But I still kind of default to doing it a little bit. So like here's another sketch I did of something.
Even when sketching, you've got the instinct to be drawing.
Yeah. What is this? So, I don't know what that is, but yeah. So yeah, so I'm always constantly sketching between these two sketchbooks. I've lost that one and it was sitting on the floor right here by my desk. I just saw it this morning. All right, so what do I want? All right. So I'm thinking that I'm going to have kind of that shape, but it's going to have the convex bottom and then it's going to go up. Flat bottom. So it'll be just basically the regular clip, just with the convex bottom on it. So just take this, but convex to the bottom, or concave it.
Do you have an idea of like the minimum thickness that would be like sturdy?
So on these ones, it is, I don't know what these are, but I've found that in 3D printed parts, depending on what it is, the minimum thickness to go is like 03 or 04. Once you get bigger than that, you've got strength. These wall thicknesses here are a little over 1/8 of an inch. So I might just replicate that, especially since these are going to be pushed on.
Okay.
So I might just keep that. But I don't want it to look square like this. I'm actually going to round it a little bit. Let's see. Here, that's got this here. Maybe I'll just cut these corners off here.
Yeah, because you don't need to include those. Those are just a part of the part you're modeling.
Yeah. And actually, I might make the inside spacing this 185 right here, that inside, because these are really tough to get in and out. I might make that a little wider.
You have the control.
So that way it's kind of a looser fit. Did you cut out there, Craig? Hello?
Yeah.
Yep. You got out like halfway through your word.
Oh, I was just saying, I forget what it was, but
You said you have more, you have some control or something like that.
you have more control over adjusting it to around the problems you see. You've
Yeah.
had problems with it being a little bit too stiff, and so you can always adjust your version of it to be correct.
Yep. And just to make sure that this distance here is a critical dimension, because that's how long that needs to be. I hadn't actually written that down. So I'm going to record that right now.
Time to pull out the calipers.
Yeah. So that is 1.1. And so I have that. And the 3D printer is going to oversize everything a little bit. This printer oversizes things. It draws about a 7/1000 line. So I always make sure that I subtract 7/1000 from any dimension. So that gives space for the clearance on both sides. It's just one of the things that I know about this printer.
Is that because the printer is moving the tool path along the dimensioned outside? And
yeah,
so
it's drawing on the line.
The thickness of the plastic that it's extruding actually steps over.
Yeah, and there are adjustments you can make to adjust that. But for me, it's easier just to make the adjustment on the model than to spend hours and hours fiddling with the printer.
It's a lot more direct just to have something that prints nice the first time.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to start this, and since I'm going to be drawing this way, I'm just going to create a sketch on the bottom of this part. So that way I'm already have these edges here in there. And I'm just going to kind of draw in a box. And then to center it, I'm going to use equal, make these two sides equal. And that's going to center the part for me. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, because it's this one was on the circle, so now it's staying on the circle even though the circle's not there. But so if I keep it out there, I'm fine. And then that's going to be 1.375. When I measured it was 1.373. So I just rounded it up to 3/8. The overall height of the little things on it is 0.29. It needs 155 for in there. So I'm gonna just add in some. So I'm just gonna make that 4.375. I'm just gonna finish that, extrude it. I want it to go up a little bit, so I'm gonna tell it to go back 0.5, and I want it to be 0.5. And I want it to be a new component. So now I've got that new component there that has the right profile here, and it's got the right height that I can start working on it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Alrighty. So now, what should I do next? What do you guys think?
would now be when you start figuring out the profile to extrude and cut through the center of it?
Yeah. So perfect. I'm going to cut this out. And I'm not going to worry about the little thing in the bottom.
That'll be its own feature?
Yeah, the little thing right there in the middle. I can add that back in easily. Trying to make it so that I don't cut that and then I have to go back and cut the front and the back of it anyways. Doesn't really, it'll probably be longer to try and keep that in it right now. So I'm just going to take that out and I'll add it back. And because this part, it's symmetric, right? I'm only going to draw half of it. So I'm going to go from the midpoint, I'm going to go down to where my base is going to be. I'm going to go over, up, up. So I'm going to draw half of it. That way I'm saving.
Your keyboard is in the way.
Okay, there we go. There we go. So I have that much of it because I can mirror this over to the other side. And that saves a lot. It gave me one line instead of 3 lines that I'd have over here. And I can pick this line. One of the new things that they added in is the center line option here. There's a center function in Inventor, where if you do make that into a center line, now when you dimension from that line to another point, it gives you the full distance across.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so this is, I need that dimension right there to be my...
Does that center line actually enclose geometry?
Yep.
Or is it open at this point?
Yep, it encloses.
Okay.
It's not a construction line. You can make a construction line and a center line. You can see this. There's still the construction option here.
And that is very interesting.
So that was supposed to be 842. And actually, plus 7,000, so I'm going to make it 0.85.
Make it a little looser, a little easier to use.
The same thing here, from here to here. That's supposed to be 1.085.
Oh, 1.1?
And so I need to add my 7,000ths. Plus I need to add a little extra. So I'm just gonna make it 1/8.
Okay.
That dimension there needs to be my 1.55 or 0.155. I'm just gonna give that a little extra space too. And so those are really my critical dimensions there. Where this isn't as important. But it just didn't have it already had the 0.29, so I'm just going to go with that. There. So that gives me a good thickness there and a good thickness there. Let me just to verify. Helps I hit the right button. So I'm going to dimension from that point to the tangent point there. That gives me 0.08, so that's plenty thick.
That's structural?
Yeah, because that's the base that it's going to sit on. So
yeah,
that's good.
I remembered you saying about 0.4 or so.
Yeah, so it's more than that. So I'm going to finish, extrude that all the way through and flip it. And then I'll just mirror
the feature
across that mirror plane right there. And so now I have that. And so I can create a sketch on the top. And this is, I need to cut those down to the right size. So I'm going to turn that into a construction line. So that way these pick the whole thing. I'm going to make those.
You can set the edges to construction lines?
Yep. Yeah,
okay, I didn't know that.
The projected edges, when they're projected automatically, they don't show purple like when you project them. But you can still make them into construction lines or center lines or erase them.
I didn't know I could interact with them, so I always just included extra bits on the other side to finish.
So I'm just going to pick that line and that point and make them coincident. Did not let me do that. There we go. Coincident there. And make this line here and that line there equal. That way these move that way. Oh, sorry, let me move this over. So now it's moving the correct way. And so now I can dimension this here for how much I want left. And I need it at least 1.1. So I'm gonna just say 1. Finish. And so with the 2 boxes I have 8 lines, so that's my max, so I'm still good there. I'm just going to extrude from there to there, and I'm going to go to that. Okay. And actually these have a pretty good chamfer right there in that corner. It's a good 1/8 of an inch. So I want to throw that in right now. So remember, you can pick, if you know where the edge is, you can pick the edge through the object.
Yeah, that's very handy when you're going through and selecting like filleting corners and stuff.
Yeah. So there we have that. And create a sketch there. And I do need this to be centered. So I'm going to do a center rectangle. But some reason that's not centered on the component. For like my origin though. Huh.
I suspect when you rebuilt the arc sketch, things got uncentered.
No. It's just that plane. The origin of that plane that I sketched on wasn't the same as the origin of the origin. So actually, I'm going to delete that midpoint. I'm going to project.
Give it a new midpoint.
My origin. And now midpoint my origin to that line.
Does the origin need to be projected?
I just did.
Okay.
I don't know if it had to be, but there. Now
I use it pretty regularly, so I didn't realize.
Well, usually on a sketch, it'll be this icon here will be at the origin.
Will be the actual origin.
When you create sketch planes, sometimes they're off.
Yeah.
And I probably could have just done constraint, pick the origin. Yeah, see, it'll let me pick it.
Yeah.
But I'm used to just projecting if I have to.
That's fine. I just wanted to understand what I was looking at.
I did that change there, and everything was built right. Everything slid over.
Moving the positions didn't send any sketch wonky.
Yeah. So now I can just make that vertical with the origin, the sketch origin, which is lined up with the part origin. So it's there, and actually I want that centered on the part. So instead of doing that, because I want this rectangle centered on this whole part, I'm just going to draw a line from corner to corner, and midpoint from there to there, and then turn that into a construction line. Now that behaves correctly, and that is going to be 0.14 and 1.3 and 0.06, but it's got a bit of a little chamfer here going up but it's not a 45, so I'm just going to go in with chamfer, and so I'm going to do 2 distances. Go back.
Whenever you start with 2 distances, the first time you pull always pulls both. Then you can pull whichever one you like.
Yeah. So I want this one to only go down 3.
If you zoom in, you can get more control.
Yeah. I can also tighten more. So I'm just going to do 0.04.
Yep. You can be as precise as you like.
From there, can I add another one over here? Oh. I'll do another one over there. There we go. So it looks like it's, I don't know if you, over here, you can kind of see the curve right there. It's tangent to the side.
It's got rounds at the end of it.
And then it goes up, so it's tangent right here, and then it kind of goes up and angles in. So I'm just going to use that as what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just do a tangent arc.
Keyboard's in the way again.
Yeah, of course. And actually, I can't because I can't use the tangent arc because I don't have a line going this way. So I'm just going to use a regular arc. So from here to here, and then I'll make that tangent to there. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then make those 2 equal.
And that's tangent.
And now I can dimension between those.
I find it very weird having equal curves.
What do you mean? So when curves are equal, equal means equal radius.
Mm-hmm. And arc length?
In radius. Equal sets so when you add the equal constraint onto an arc, it makes equal radius. That's what it is. It doesn't affect the length of the arc, it affects the radius.
But not equal arc length?
No.
Okay.
Because if I didn't have this
that makes more
constraint
sense
on that side,
okay, yeah. Even though they're equal, they just have to be the same same size of circle.
Yeah.
Their center points are symmetrical across that center.
No, that would be that's because they're both tangent here, and so that's making the center point stay there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if it wasn't if it wasn't tangent and it wasn't there, it was just equal, the center points could do different things.
They could move all the way around.
But both those arcs are staying the same radius.
Just as long as they're the same arc radius.
Yeah. So adding the tangent here is what makes them the center stay lined up, because the tangent point of there means that
because they have to be tangent horizontal to that point there.
Yeah. So remember, the line from the center to the point is perpendicular to the tangent line. And there we go. So I'm going to finish. I'm going to extrude. And actually, those are really close to being tangent, but they're not.
You could make them.
I could make them, but I'm going to leave them not.
You're cutting all the way off rather than swooping down?
No, yeah, I'm just going to come on. Actually, I will make them tangent. So in that case, but because I want to go right, see, now is the question. Since I'm going to make them tangent on both places, do I do them on a sketch or as a fillet? If I want to make sure it's going exactly there,
a fillet.
so fillet would probably be easier. So I'm just going to erase all of that sketch. Finish sketch. Erase.
I thought we were sketching because we were going to draft it down on that like slant.
Oh, no, I was going to just cut it out.
Just round it off.
Yeah.
At which point, Fillets very direct.
But I need to make sure I have the right length. So that line, that segment right there is 0.4. We go there. And then I'm going to fill it.
Nice and easy does
this
it.
Bottom corner. Actually, I'm just going to chamfer that. Equal distances. So it's not just a sharp corner down there. I'll do the same chamfer on these.
Can't you just select the top face?
Yes.
If you're going to go all the way around like that?
Yeah, I thought about that as I was doing it.
Cool. Just means looking at the right places.
Oh no, I don't want these. I was going to do those and realized, no, it's going to lock on those, so I do want those back corners.
Just so long as you don't mess with the interior.
Yeah, it's that corner it's going to lock onto. All right, so I think that is good. And I probably should have saved this a long time ago.
Right? Snorkel GoPro clip?
Yeah. There we go. So we've got that now. And so from here, I'm going to save an STL.
Take it over to Cura.
And I have my computer set up to automatically open the file in Cura.
Oh, really? How did you get it to save so fast?
I had to go manually move the SD card.
How did you get the file to save so fast? Whenever I export an STL, Fusion takes a while.
How powerful is your computer?
I think it's pretty beefy, but it always has like a long loading time up until the halfway point, and then it goes like immediately. I thought that I was waiting in line for the server to.
No, because it's doing that on your computer.
Is there?
It's doing it's doing the export to an STL, and I think it, and then launching.
I thought it was passing it off to cloud computing.
And then whatever your program is, whatever your site to Cura, I think it's doing all that on your computer.
Okay.
I mean, we can watch and see. So I'm gonna close this. And
I'm wondering if there's a setting to stop sending it to the cloud and have it do all the computing on my computer.
We'll have this up. And so get some baseline usage for this. Okay.
I fully believe that it came from your computer if the computing was done that fast. I'm wondering where to find that setting.
So let me say okay. So actually, I'm not seeing any extra usage at all. So it might be going out. I don't know. Memory had a little tiny bump when I did that. CPU did have a spike.
There was a small CPU spike as well.
but I'm running. My computer's not being used at all. It's only at 14%, and my memory's less than 30.
She's ready and waiting.
Yeah. So depending on, and I just built this computer last summer, so it's pretty up there, and it's the hard drive. So they're M2 drives. It's an M2 drive on the hard drive plus an SD is my second drive, and I have a good graphics card, and so you can see the graphics card did bump there too. So kind of that same spot. Actually, it did a dip and then it came up.
So now it's back to normal cycle.
Depends on what your computer specs are. So I don't know how your computer stacks up to this. That might be part of it. I know my old laptop was a lot slower than this.
I'm going to keep looking for settings.
Yeah, check and see. There might be something. I don't know. So now it comes down to how do we want to print this thing. When we print, the strength is in the layer lines. And so if I printed this way, the layers would be going this way horizontally, which means the part would snap in half. The supports here would be strong, but this part here would snap off. If I do it, so I'm just going to flip that down. Oops. And just go in and rotate that 180. So if I did it this way, I'd have a lot of strength this way, or kind of in the layer down here, but the towers right here would snap off. The whole thing would just snap. And also, I'm gonna have all support underneath here to hold up that curve. So looking at it, you might think that this might be the best orientation to print, but it's really not. It's going to be weak. We're going to have a lot of extra support here on the face that I want it to mount on. So that's probably not a good solution there. So I'm going to print this like this. It's going to take a little bit longer. Just going high is a lot longer than doing something short. And we can actually see that. If I slice this, it takes an hour to do it this way. And if I stand it up on end, it will probably be, it's only 4 minutes longer. So a little bit longer, but not too much. But it's going to need support down here. But other than that, it's not going to use a whole lot of support. I can hit preview and take a look at it.
Could you move the camera so that we can see the slicer time?
Oh, sorry. There you go. So it was 50 minutes before.
Now it's gone up quite a bit.
Yeah, so I'll go back and slice it. So not that much. So 50 minutes, 7 grams of material there. If I go here, 54 minutes and only 5 grams of material, because it doesn't have to do all that support underneath the base. So it cut out a third of the material, so that's why that didn't increase in time as much. If it had to use the same amount of material, then the time would have gone up the same.
And is this a part where you're worried about the layer orientation, which is why you turned it?
Yeah, because now my layers are going this way, and so within the layer, it's nice and strong.
You have the full strength of the layer.
And I might add another wall. So Alexander asked a question, if your projects have to take into account 3D printing. Alexander, it depends on what your project is and how your project's going to be made. So part of the project is you're going to have to decide if we're going to make this thing for real, how would we make it? So if how you're going to make it would be injection molding or machining or whatever, you have to take those processes into account. If it's something that you're designing that's going to be 3D printed, then yeah, you have to take 3D printing into account also. So in everything you do, we always have to account for what the process is that we're going to use to make it. So I'm going to increase this to 3 walls, give it a little extra strength. And so that added a few more minutes. But now you can see it's got 3 walls of material here. So that's even more kind of strength in there. And so got that. I'm going to go down and change the name, because when it brings in from Fusion, the name is really weird. So I'm going to call this GoPro adapter, save it to the removable drive, eject it, and go put it in the printer. So there's my printer.
You said it's a SD?
Yeah, just a small SSD to micro SSD, I think, to hand it to the printer.
And it's warming up.